The restaurant floor was so polished you could see your own reflection in it, bright, blinding, spotless, except for the shattered plate lying near Amina's feet. White porcelain shards glittered under the ceiling lights like scattered ice. A steaming bowl of pasta had splattered across her apron. Her hands trembled, her breath hitched, her eyes glistened, and then came the shove. "I said move, girl," roared Officer Brad Coster, a thick-necked cop whose voice filled the entire room with toxic authority. The veins on his forehead pulsed with fury. His broad chest heaved beneath his uniform as he pointed a finger so close to Amina's face she could feel the heat of his anger radiate off him. Dozens of customers froze mid-bite. Forks hovered. Whispering rippled through the crowded upscale bistro, but no one stepped forward. No one dared challenge a cop. Amina, wearing her faded black waitress uniform, lifted her hands slightly, defensive, trembling. "Yes, sir, I didn't mean—" "Shut it." Brad snapped, his spit hitting her cheek. "I asked you a simple question and you have the nerve to ignore me." I didn't ignore you," Amina whispered. "I was serving table 9, the kitchen. You think I care about your excuses," Brad barked, stepping closer, crowding her space. "You people always have something to say." Her heart sank. You people. Her breath left her body in a silent gasp, but still she kept her voice steady, respectful, controlled, because that's how she was raised. "If you give me 1 minute, I can get the—" Brad grabbed her wrist so roughly the entire restaurant heard her soft gasp of pain. "Don't get smart with me. Tell me your manager's name right now before I drag you out of here for obstructing a police officer." The room fell into suffocating silence. Every guest stared. Every staff member froze, yet no one helped her. Amina tried to pull her wrist free. "Please, you're hurting me." "Oh, I'm sorry," Brad said mockingly, tightening his grip. "Does the billionaire princess feel uncomfortable?" Amina's eyes widened. "WH what? You told the hostess you were a billionaire, right?" he sneered. "To get special treatment, to get your order discounted, you think people like us fall for that?" "I never said that," Amina whispered, tears forming. "I never, liar." His shout echoed through the bistro as sharply as the plate that had shattered moments earlier. He shoved her backward. She stumbled, hitting the edge of a table and collapsing to the floor as a wave of gasps swept the room. But Officer Brad wasn't done. He leaned over her, towering above like a storm ready to strike. "Say you lied right now in front of everyone. Admit you're nothing but a broke little waitress pretending to be rich." Amina's lip quivered, her palms pressed against the cold floor. "I never said that," she whispered again, but her voice broke. Cameras came out. Phones recorded. She felt the humiliation pouring over her like acid, burning, blistering, suffocating. A cruel smile stretched across Brad's face. "I knew it. Just another entitled, loud-mouthed—" "Hey!" A voice cut through the room like a sharp blade slicing rope. Deep, calm, commanding, everyone turned. At the entrance stood a man in a long, charcoal gray coat. His presence hit the room before his footsteps did, steady, powerful, impossibly composed. He wasn't tall in a threatening way, but tall in a you-can't-ignore-me way. His silver hair glinted. His posture radiated authority. His cold blue eyes didn't blink as he assessed the situation. He looked like someone who had spent decades commanding men like Brad, not obeying them. Brad's smirk faltered. The man took a step forward. "Let go of her," Brad scoffed. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger didn't raise his voice. He didn't move fast. He simply said, "Someone you shouldn't disrespect," twice. A murmur ran through the crowd. Brad laughed. "Oh yeah, and what are you gonna do? You want to defend this little liar? She told my partner she's some kind of billionaire." "I never," Amina tried again, shaking her head desperately. The stranger raised a hand gently, silently telling her she didn't need to explain herself to men like this. But Brad wasn't done humiliating her. "People like her don't belong here," he spat. "Making up stories, pretending to be rich." The stranger's expression changed. Barely, but enough to make every customer hold their breath. He stepped between Brad and Amina, standing like a fortress shielding her from every ounce of harm. His voice dropped into something cold enough to freeze the room. "You have made a grave mistake today." Brad's face reddened. "You threatening an officer?" "No," the man tilted his head. "I'm informing a fool." "Excuse me." The stranger finally locked eyes with him, a stare so razor-sharp it felt like it cut straight into the heart of the room. "This girl you just assaulted, this girl you mocked for claiming she's a billionaire, this girl you're calling a liar," he paused. The silence was thick enough to choke on. "Is my sister." The entire restaurant gasped. Brad blinked. "What?" His voice cracked. The man took another step forward. "And one more thing," he said quietly, but with a weight that landed like thunder. "I'm General Alexander Reeds, United States Army, commander of the Eastern Division." Brad's knees visibly buckled. Someone dropped their drink. Amina stared up at the man in disbelief, trying to understand what was happening, who he was, why he was defending her. General Reeds didn't even look at Brad anymore. He looked down at Amina with soft, protective eyes. "Stand up, little sister," he said gently. "I'm here now." Brad's face drained of all color. "Gee, General." I didn't know," but the general turned slowly, his gaze turning icy again. "You laid hands on my sister," he said, "and you humiliated her in public." I swear I didn't know." "That," the general said, "is precisely the problem." Brad stumbled backward. "Sir, please let me explain." "Explain," the general echoed, raising an eyebrow. "In front of all these witnesses." Brad's mouth opened, then closed, and then the general leaned in, his voice low, lethal, undeniable. "Your entire life is about to change." A collective gasp spread through the restaurant. Amina's breath hitched. Brad paled, sweat forming at his temples. The general stepped forward again, each footstep echoing like a final verdict. "And trust me, you will not enjoy what comes next." A tension heavier than stone filled the room. Sirens wailed faintly outside, backup arriving. Brad swallowed, trembling. The general turned slightly, looking directly into the camera of a recording phone. His next words were slow, deliberate, chilling. Let the world see exactly how he treated her. Brad's eyes widened in horror. But little did Officer Brad know, the narrator's voice would whisper to the audience. His life was about to collapse in ways he never imagined, because the secret standing in this room wasn't just that Amina was related to a general. The camera zooms in on Amina's shocked, tear-stained face. It was that Amina was far richer, far more powerful, and far more important than anyone in this room ever realized. The restaurant holds its breath. The screen fades to black, and then in a voice rich with tension we say, "Let's go back to how this story truly began this morning." The sun struggled to rise over the small, worn-down neighborhood on the east side of the city. The houses here were old, paint peeling, fences broken, roofs patched with whatever the residents could afford. But inside one of those tiny homes lived a girl whose heart was bigger than all the wealth she never had. Her name was Amina Reeds. A gentle hum flowed from her lips as she folded laundry, her little brother's tiny shirts, her mother's faded dresses, her own uniform for the day. Her movements were soft, deliberate, almost ritualistic. She woke before dawn every morning, not because she wanted to, but because her reality demanded it. The kettle whistled weakly from the stove. Amina turned it off quickly so it wouldn't wake her mother, who slept in the next room with a persistent, raspy cough that had grown worse over the past week. She carried a mug toward the bedroom door. "Mom," she whispered, pushing it open gently. Her mother, Mrs. Reeds, lay beneath a thin blanket, her breath shallow. Sweat glistened on her forehead. Even in illness she carried grace, cheekbones high, skin deep and warm, eyes full of a wisdom that life had carved into her. "You're up early again." Her mother murmured. Amina smiled softly. "It's already past 6. I made your tea." "You shouldn't be taking care of me. I should be taking care of you," her mother said with a weak chuckle, coughing immediately after. Amina placed a hand on her mother's arm. "You spent your whole life raising me and Jamal. Let me do my part." Her mother eyed her with that knowing look only mothers possess. "You look tired," she whispered. "I slept," Amina lied. "You didn't." They both knew the truth. Amina hadn't slept more than 3 hours a night for months. Between working double shifts, managing the household, helping her little brother with school, and smoothing over the consequences of being poor in a world that punished poverty, sleep had become a luxury she simply couldn't afford. Before her mother could argue more, a soft knock echoed from the hallway. "Is breakfast ready?" a small voice asked. Amina turned to see Jamal, her 8-year-old brother, rubbing his eyes with one hand and clutching his worn-out action figure with the other. His curly hair stood in every direction possible. "Almost," Amina said, walking over to ruffle his hair. "Go wash up." "Okay," he said obediently, shuffling to the bathroom. Her mother smiled weakly. "He listens to you more than he listens to me." "That's because he knows I'll tickle him if he doesn't," Amina said with a grin, causing her mother to laugh a little. A minute later, Amina was back in the cramped kitchen, opening cupboards that were nearly empty. She bit her lip, staring at the single box of cereal with barely a third left inside. Not enough. Not enough for Jamal, not enough for her mother, not enough for herself. She glanced at the small jar on the counter, her emergency savings. There were $12.14 inside. She closed her eyes tightly. $12, she whispered to herself. "Okay, we can make it work." But even she didn't believe that. Not today. Because today her mother's medication would run out. Today, she needed to buy Jamal's school supplies for his upcoming exam. Today, her electricity bill was past due, and the notice was taped to the front door yesterday with a bright red stamp, "Final warning." And today she didn't have enough money for even a bus ride to work, let alone food. Yet Amina forced herself to breathe, to stand tall, to stay calm. She poured what remained of the cereal into a bowl for Jamal and made tea for her mother. She herself drank water. Her stomach grumbled loudly, but she ignored it. The morning routine continued, but her thoughts were racing. She checked her mother's pill bottle, 3 tablets left, exactly enough for one more day. Tears welled in her eyes, not from self-pity, from fear. Fear of losing the one person who had always loved her fiercely despite the world's cruelty. Fear of failing her family. Fear of the future she had been fighting for years to build but was now crumbling beneath her feet. She stepped outside onto the porch for some air. The morning breeze was cool, birds chirped, cars honked. Life went on around her, blissfully unaware of the storm inside her chest. She leaned on the railing. "We'll be okay," she whispered to herself. "I'll figure it out." Her gaze fell on the faded envelope stuffed under the doormat, another bill. Her breath trembled. She sat down and buried her face in her hands. "I need help," she whispered, but there was no one to ask. Her father passed away years ago, taken by a heart attack he never saw coming. Her older brother, General Alexander Reeds, had been estranged from the family ever since a painful misunderstanding years ago. Amina had sent letters, text messages, even birthday wishes, but he never responded. Or maybe he never received them. Either way, she learned to stop expecting him. It hurt too much to keep reaching for someone who wasn't reaching back. So Amina built her world alone, brick by brick, until even the bricks began to crack. Her mother's cough grew worse. Jamal tripped on the front step and scraped his knee. The electricity flickered, and the knot in Amina's stomach twisted tighter. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, praying it wasn't a bill collector. Instead, it was a text from her manager. "You're late again and you owe us 2 extra shifts from last week. Don't mess up today." Amina closed her eyes. Of course, no understanding, no compassion, no human decency. Work was a battlefield of its own, but she answered simply, "On my way." She grabbed her bag, hugged her mother, kissed Jamal's forehead, and stepped outside. "Be careful, sweetheart," her mother called out softly. "I will," Amina said, smiling though tears tugged at the corners of her eyes. She walked down the block, trying to stay calm. "I'll ask for an advance," she thought, "just enough to buy the medicine. They'll help. They have to help." Deep down, she already knew they wouldn't, but she clung to hope anyway because that's all she had left. Her shoes were worn thin. The pavement felt cold through the soles. She checked her bus card, empty. So she walked, nearly 5 miles to the restaurant. Her feet blistered. Her stomach churned. Her thoughts spiraled. If I don't get that medicine, if I don't pay the electricity bill, if I don't get Jamal's school supplies, she blinked back tears. "I can do this," she whispered. "Just get through the day." The city grew louder as she approached the upscale district, the one filled with glass buildings, luxury cars, and people who walked like they owned the earth beneath their feet. Her uniform looked painfully out of place here. She tightened her apron around her waist and forced confidence into her stride. She walked through the restaurant doors, took a deep breath. Her manager glanced at her with a frown. "You look tired. Don't let it affect your performance." "Yes, sir," she said softly. She put her bag away, tied her hair back, and stepped onto the restaurant floor. She didn't know that later today a plate would shatter, a cop would shove her, her dignity would be stripped naked in front of hundreds of strangers, and a crowd would watch, silent, uncaring. What she also didn't know was that someone extremely powerful, someone she believed she had lost forever, was about to walk back into her life. And her entire world was about to change. Forever. Amina's steps grew slower as she entered the upscale district, every block a reminder that she didn't belong here. Luxury fashion stores displayed gowns worth more than her entire yearly income. Cafe patios brimmed with wealthy customers sipping coffee priced higher than her family's weekly groceries. She tugged her apron straight and held her head high despite the sting behind her eyes. "Don't look small," she reminded herself. "Don't let them see you're afraid." By the time she reached the bistro, her legs ached, her throat felt raw from the cold air, and her heart beat too fast from worry. Just get through today. Ask for help. Buy Mom's medicine. Everything will be okay. She repeated those words like a prayer. When she pushed open the restaurant door, a wave of warm air greeted her, but not warmth in the emotional sense. The manager, Mr. Walsh, a stiff, stone-faced man in his 50s, spotted her immediately. "You're late," he snapped without even checking the time. "I'm only 3 minutes. Late is late," he interrupted. "This isn't a charity. You want your paycheck?" Yes, sir. Then keep your head down, do your job, and stop giving attitude. Amina swallowed her indignation. Of course. He tossed a stack of menus into her arms. VIP lunch crowd today? No mistakes. VIP crowd, meaning wealthy patrons, meaning she needed to be perfect. She nodded and hurried toward the dining area, ignoring the burning in her stomach, both hunger and anxiety. The restaurant gleamed with marble floors, gold-trimmed decor, and expensive art she never had time to admire. Breathtaking to some, intimidating to her. But today she carried a sliver of hope inside her chest. Hope that she could ask for an advance. Hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would treat her with empathy. The lunch rush arrived fast. A corporate table barked orders at her like she was beneath air. A wealthy woman scolded her for bringing room-temperature water instead of iced. A teenager mocked her apron. Amina stayed composed, but each insult dug deeper, scraping the surface of her patience and slicing her heart a little at a time. Still, she kept working, smiling, serving, surviving. When a lull finally came, she approached Mr. Walsh with caution. Sir, I wanted to ask something. My mother, she's very sick, and I'm running out of her medicine, and I was wondering if maybe I could get an advance or... No. The answer came instantly, without pause, without consideration. Amina blinked. But you didn't need to, he cut her off. You're already missing hours. I won't risk giving you money you can't earn back. I can earn it back, she insisted, her voice cracking. Please, sir, I just need... Are you deaf? He snapped. I said no. Her heart sank. She swallowed the lump in her throat. Okay, I understand. But she didn't understand how someone could look at another human being begging for help and feel nothing. The lunch rush returned with a thunderous wave of customers, every table filled, every server whirled around like frantic bees. Amina balanced 2 plates in one hand and a tray of glasses in the other as she hurried toward a table of officers, 4 men in uniform. She forced her smile, despite how small she felt, but one of them, Officer Brad Coster, looked at her with a sneer the moment she approached. What took you so long? He barked. I'm sorry, sir, the kitchen is, don't care, we've been waiting 15 minutes. That's not true, she caught herself. I apologize, sir. Brad leaned back in his chair, smirking at the officers beside him. These kids don't know how to work anymore, think the world owes them something. His friends chuckled. Amina set the glasses down carefully. Your drinks will be right. Brad suddenly flicked his hand toward the tray, knocking a glass off balance. It shattered. The liquid splashed across her apron, dripping onto the pristine marble floor. A collective gasp spread through the nearby tables. Amina froze, her breath caught in her throat. She whispered. Brad stood up abruptly, towering over her. You did that on purpose, didn't you? And no, sir, you hit. Are you calling me a liar? He barked. Amina's heart pounded. I'm not, it was an accident. You people love playing victim, don't you? Brad said loudly, ensuring half the restaurant heard. Amina's stomach twisted painfully, but Brad wasn't done. His gaze swept her up and down with disgust. What's with your attitude? What are you even doing working here? Thought you said you were some billionaire or whatever. Amina blinked. What? My partner said you told the hostess you were rich, he said mockingly, trying to get special treatment. Her mouth fell open. I never, liar, Brad roared. The restaurant went dead silent. Customers stared, phones lifted to record. Amina felt her knees weaken. I never said that, she whispered, barely able to speak. I would never. Brad stepped closer, invading her space. Don't lie to me, girl. She stepped back, trembling. Please, I'm just trying to do my job. Oh, I'll make sure you never get another job, Brad spat, seizing her wrist. Tell me the truth or I drag you out of here myself. Let go, please, Amina gasped as his grip tightened. The other officers didn't intervene. They watched, smirking, enjoying the spectacle. Not one customer stood up for her. Not one coworker defended her. She was alone, completely, painfully alone. Brad leaned closer, his breath hot and foul on her face. Say you lied. Say you're a broke nobody pretending to be something you're not. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her voice barely found itself. I'm not pretending to be anything, she whispered through sobs. I'm just trying to survive. Her knees buckled and she fell backward as Brad shoved her, sending her crashing into the table behind her. Dishes toppled, food splattered, more gasps. A child cried. A couple shook their heads, whispering. But no one moved. Brad towered over her, chest heaving in arrogance. I should arrest you right now. For what? She breathed through tears. For lying, he snarled. For wasting my time, for... Hey! The voice sliced through the chaos. Everyone turned. Amina lifted her head, vision blurred, breath trembling, and there, standing at the restaurant entrance, was the man whose presence shattered the tension like thunder smashing glass. General Alexander Reeds, but she didn't know that yet. All she knew was that a stranger had stepped between her and the monster looming above her. He stood tall, unyielding, silent, but his silence spoke louder than Brad's shouting. The officers stiffened, the customers instinctively straightened, even Brad seemed caught off guard. "Let go of her," the stranger commanded, but his voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Authority dripped from every syllable. Brad scoffed. "Get out of here, old man. This doesn't concern you." The stranger's gaze sharpened. "It concerns me more than you know." His eyes flicked to Amina, soft, gentle, concerned, before returning to Brad with a coldness so sharp it could slice steel. "Release her," he repeated. Brad puffed out his chest. "Or what?" The stranger stepped forward until he stood inches from Brad's face. "Or you will learn who you just put your hands on." His voice was ice and fire merged into one. Amina stared at him, breathless, trembling, confused, and utterly overwhelmed. The stranger continued, "And when you realize the truth, you will regret every second of this moment." Brad's eyebrows knitted. "Who the hell do you think you are?" The stranger answered, slow and deliberate. "I am General Alexander Reeds." A wave of shock rippled through the restaurant, gasps, whispers, blood draining from faces, but the true blow came next. "And this girl you just assaulted," he said, turning toward Amina. He extended his hand to her. "Is my sister." Amina's tears fell harder, not from pain now, but confusion so deep it froze her. "Sister? General Reed's sister? Her?" General Reed stared at Brad, voice dropping into lethal calm. "You made a grave mistake today, officer." Brad stumbled backward, face pale. I didn't know. "That," the general said, "is the very reason you should lose your badge." And right there, right in front of everyone, he declared, "Your consequences begin now." You could feel the energy in the room shift. Moments ago, the place buzzed with whispers and judgment, customers eager to witness a spectacle without understanding the pain behind it. Moments ago, Amina lay on the ground, trembling, her dignity shattered, her heart bruised, her voice broken. But now, silence, thick, heavy, terrifying, because General Alexander Reeds had spoken. A decorated military leader, a national figure, a man whose reputation alone could command rooms much larger than this one. And he had just called Amina the girl everyone dismissed, the girl the officer shoved, the girl no one fought for his sister. Amina struggled to breathe. Her tears didn't know whether to stop or fall harder. General Reeds extended his hand again, his face softening. "Amina," he said gently, "come here." Her breath hitched. "And no, sir, I think you have the wrong." But he slowly knelt beside her, his stern expression melting into an emotion she hadn't seen directed toward her in years. Recognition, relief, regret. "Amina Reeds," he whispered. "My little sister, I've been trying to find you for 6 months." Her heart froze. 6 months. The man who had vanished from her life, the brother she believed abandoned her. The brother she wished would return but convinced herself never would. He was here, he was looking for her. Her voice cracked. "Alex," his jaw trembled. "I'm here." He reached out again, more slowly, more tenderly this time, and helped her to her feet. Brad watched, face pale, sweat gathering at his temples. "Sir," he stammered, "General Reeds, I didn't know she was." General Reeds turned to him, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You assaulted a civilian," he said coldly. "You publicly humiliated her, you verbally degraded her, you physically threatened her." Brad swallowed. "But she lied," she said. "She told no such lie," General Reeds interrupted. "And even if she had, you have no authority to treat a woman, any human being, the way you did." Then the general's voice lowered dangerously. "Badge or no badge?" Brad's eyes widened, sweat trickled down his neck. "Sir, please, this is a misunderstanding." "No," General Reed said. "This was abuse of power." The other officers shrank back. None dared speak. The restaurant watched, not breathing, not blinking, barely believing what they were witnessing. The manager rushed forward, his face a twisted mix of fear and fake respect. General Reed, sir, had I known, had I realized she was well related to someone like you," the general's gaze snapped to him. "So you would have treated her differently only if you knew she had connections." Walsh froze. I just meant. "I heard how you spoke to her earlier," the general continued. "Belittling her, dismissing her. You refused to help when she was clearly struggling." Walsh opened his mouth, but nothing coherent came out. General Reed stepped toward him with the calm, chilling confidence of a man used to commanding entire battalions. "You run a place that serves the elite, yet you act like someone who has never known true honor." Walsh stuttered, sweating. "Sir, please, this is all blown out of proportion. She's just a—" "Finish that sentence," the general warned quietly. Walsh's throat closed. Behind him, servers whispered frantically. Customers shifted uncomfortably, guilt creeping into their faces. Some looked down. Some clutched their bags, some turned off their recording phones in shame, because the truth was clear now. Everyone who watched Amina's humiliation silently was complicit, and they knew it. Amina trembled, still processing everything. "Alex, why are you here?" she whispered, voice unsteady. He looked at her with a guilt-laced softness rarely seen on a man known for his iron discipline. "I was transferred back to this state earlier this year," he said. "I went to the house, I called, I wrote, all my messages bounced back. They said the address was vacant. They said my family couldn't be found." Amina's breath shook. "They cut our electricity 3 times, we moved twice," she whispered. He closed his eyes briefly, the pain on his face unmistakable. "I didn't leave because I wanted to abandon you," he said, voice trembling with sincerity. "I left because I was deployed. I came back for you." Her lips parted, tears welled. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Brad attempted to regain his footing, emotionally and physically. He stepped forward. "General, sir, maybe we can handle this discreetly." "There is nothing discreet about what you did," the general replied. His voice didn't rise, it didn't need to. The quiet authority cracked louder than thunder. "You humiliated a woman publicly," he said. "Therefore, you will face consequences publicly." Brad's Adam's apple bobbed. "That's not fair," he muttered. "What you did to her was not fair," General Reeds countered flawlessly. "This is justice." Then he turned toward the entire restaurant. "If any of you recorded this," the general announced, "do not delete it. This evidence will be needed." People lowered their phones instantly. Brad's eyes widened. "Sir, General, please, I'll lose my job." General Reeds stared at him with no pity, no hesitation, no regret. "You should have thought about that before abusing your authority." Brad's legs nearly gave out. His voice softened. "Amina, did he hurt you?" She opened her mouth, but emotion tangled her words. I'm okay now." "No," he said gently, brushing a trembling thumb under her eye to catch a tear. "You're not, but you will be." Amina clutched his arm, overwhelmed. Why did you come back for me after all these years?" He looked at her with nothing but love. "Because you're my sister, and because I thought you were safe with Mom." His voice cracked. "I didn't know how bad things had gotten. I should have come sooner." Amina sobbed softly. "It wasn't your fault." "It wasn't yours either," he replied. For the first time since childhood, she leaned into his chest. He wrapped his arms around her, steady, strong, protective. A hush fell over the restaurant. Even those who once judged her felt the sting of shame now. She was just a waitress. She was just a poor girl. She was just someone beneath them. She was family to a powerful man they would never dare disrespect. But more importantly, she was human. She always had been. They just chose not to see it. General Reed straightened, one arm still around Amina. He pointed at Brad. "You are suspended as of this moment." Brad's mouth dropped. "Yes, sir, you don't have that authority. I outrank your entire precinct," the general stated. "And I am reporting your conduct directly to the chief of police." He turned to the other officers. "And as for you 3, your silence was complicity. You failed your duty. Reports will be filed for all of you." The officers panicked. One stuttered, "Sir, she never said she was a billionaire. He made that up." Another added, "Please, General, we didn't do anything wrong." "You're right," the general said coldly. "You didn't do anything at all." He faced the manager next. "And you, Mr. Walsh, she quits, effective immediately." Walsh looked relieved at first, until the general added, "And I will personally ensure this establishment is reported for workplace misconduct." Walsh's face drained of all color. "Sir, please, General," but the general didn't look at him again. He smiled softly at Amina. "Come," he said, "let's go home." Amina hesitated. "Home," she echoed. He nodded, eyes gentle. "You're not walking 5 miles again," he whispered. "You're not struggling alone again. And you are certainly not serving people who treat you like less than you are." He placed a protective hand on her back. "You are family, you are safe, you are coming with me." Amina couldn't hold back her tears anymore. She nodded. "Yes, okay." And with that, the brother she thought she lost, the life she thought she'd never escape, the humiliation she endured that morning, all of it shifted in one moment. For the first time in years, she had someone in her corner, someone powerful, someone who cared. Someone who wasn't going to let the world crush her anymore. They walked out together, and the entire restaurant watched in stunned silence. The restaurant buzzed with whispers, murmurs, and the occasional sob. Brad Coster sat in a corner office, shaking as the chief of police reviewed the general's report. His career, built over decades, crumbled in minutes. Meanwhile, outside, Amina and General Reed stepped into the sunlight. The city's noise felt different now, not harsh, but alive, almost welcoming. Amina could feel every ounce of tension leaving her body. The burden she had carried for months, the fear of failing her mother, the anxiety over Jamal's needs, all of it suddenly seemed manageable. She began, turning to her brother, voice trembling. You didn't have to come, I know, he said gently, eyes warm. But I couldn't not come. Family isn't something you abandon. Amina blinked, tears flowing freely. I thought you didn't care. He shook his head. I cared, I just didn't know how bad things had gotten. But I see it now, and I won't let you go through this alone again. Her heart pounded with relief, disbelief, and gratitude. Inside the police precinct, Brad was facing the consequences in full. Officers around him whispered, lawyers were called, and complaints flooded in from customers who had recorded his assault on Amina. Sir, the disciplinary board will suspend you indefinitely, one officer said. Your behavior is unacceptable and unlawful. Brad stammered, sweat dripping from his forehead. But I didn't. You assaulted a civilian, the chief said firmly. You verbally and physically abused her. Your actions violated multiple codes of conduct. You are suspended and a formal investigation will be conducted. You may also face criminal charges. Brad's eyes darted nervously. I didn't know she was. Exactly, the chief interrupted. Ignorance is no excuse. You have failed in every possible way. His colleagues avoided looking at him. The social media backlash had already started. Within minutes, Brad's name was trending as a symbol of abuse of power. The humiliation he once delivered to Amina now returned to him tenfold. Amina's reward, 12:15 p.m. Meanwhile, Amina and General Reeds returned to her modest home. She noticed the electricity was still on, her mother resting comfortably with medicine in her hands, and Jamal finishing his homework at the kitchen table. For the first time in months, the house felt alive with hope. Her brother turned to her. We're going to fix everything, he said softly. No more skipping medicine, no more empty cupboards, no more sleepless nights worrying about bills. Amina swallowed hard. But you've done so much already. I don't even know how to thank you. You don't have to, he said, shaking his head. I'm your family. Helping you isn't charity. It's what I should have done a long time ago. She felt a lump in her throat. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how to live in a world where people actually care for me. He crouched down to meet her eyes. You'll learn, and I'll be right beside you every step of the way. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Thank you for everything. Her brother smiled gently. No. Thank you for staying strong all this time. You've done more than I could have imagined, facing hardship, caring for Mom and Jamal, and never giving up. That courage, it deserves to be recognized. Within weeks, General Reeds took full responsibility for his sister and her family. He secured medical care for Mrs. Reeds, ensured Jamal's school tuition and supplies were covered, and arranged a financial foundation for Amina. No more late-night shifts, no more empty cupboards, no more fear of eviction. Amina had never experienced this kind of security in her life. And while money and comfort were now available, the true gift was the sense of dignity, respect, and love she finally received. One evening, sitting on the porch with her mother and brother, she spoke softly, still in awe. I don't even know how to describe how it feels, she said. To finally not feel invisible, to finally feel safe. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. You were always visible to me, Amina. We just didn't have the means to protect you from the world. Now, things are different. Her brother nodded. And I promise it will stay that way, not just today, not just tomorrow, but every day for the rest of your life. Amina looked at him, hope blossoming in her chest. I want to go back to school, she said, voice trembling. I want to study, maybe even help other people who feel as powerless as I did. Her brother smiled proudly. Then we'll make that happen. You deserve every opportunity and more. And with that, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to believe in years, a future without fear, without struggle, without shame. Later that day, Amina and her brother sat quietly in the living room. Sunlight poured through the window, painting the room gold. She could feel the weight lifting from her chest, replaced by warmth and security. I never thought anyone would stand up for me like that, she admitted, voice small. I've spent my whole life invisible. And today, you didn't just stand up, you destroyed the fear. He smiled softly. You've always been seen by me, always. You were never invisible to me. I just wasn't there to protect you when the world failed. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, I should have believed you were out there somewhere. I should have trusted you'd come. He shook his head. No, you survived on your own. That's the courage I admire. And now we'll make a life where you don't have to survive alone. Amina smiled, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and love washing over her. I can't believe this is real. It is real, he said firmly. And it's just the beginning. Weeks passed, and the fallout for Brad Coster was complete. The videos recorded by customers went viral, showing his abuse clearly. He was suspended, investigated, and publicly shamed. His name became synonymous with arrogance and abuse of power. The restaurant manager was fired. Corporate offices issued statements pledging to improve workplace practices, and the other officers received reprimands for failing to act. Amina didn't need revenge. Justice had been served naturally, and the weight of it settled in a satisfying, bittersweet way. The people who once dismissed her now witnessed her resilience firsthand. General Reeds made it clear. Amina wasn't just safe financially. She was safe emotionally, spiritually, and socially. He encouraged her to pursue education, explore opportunities, and follow her dreams. "Whatever you want to be," he told her, "I will make it possible. You earned this, you deserve this, and nothing will take it away." Amina hugged her brother tightly, feeling the warmth and love she had missed for years. "I promise I won't waste this," she whispered. He pulled back, smiling softly. "I know you won't. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known, and now you have everything you need to shine." And with that, Amina began the process of transforming her life, not just for herself, but for her mother, her brother, and her little brother, Jamal. She began studying, exploring new opportunities, and rebuilding the confidence that had been worn down by years of struggle. Her life, once filled with fear and humiliation, now brimmed with hope, love, and endless possibilities. The story of Amina Reeds is not just about a girl abused by power. It's about the triumph of justice, the strength of character, and the healing power of family. It shows that true justice is swift when the right person takes a stand, that kindness can transform a life, and that courage and resilience always shine even in the darkest moments. New life, success, happiness, lessons learned. The city skyline stretched beyond the balcony, painted in shades of gold and orange by the late afternoon sun. High above the streets that once felt like obstacles too steep to climb, Amina Reed stood tall, dressed in a sharp business suit, her posture radiating confidence. She no longer wore the faded black apron that once marked her as just a waitress. That life, the fear, the humiliation, the endless struggle, was a memory now, a distant shadow that reminded her of how far she had come. Beside her, Jamal, now a young teenager, flipped through a thick textbook with ease, his eyes bright with curiosity and excitement. His backpack, brand new, sturdy, and filled with supplies, rested neatly by his side. No longer did he fear missing school or being left behind. He had opportunities his sister could only dream of a decade ago. Amina's mother, Mrs. Reeds, walked up behind her, leaning on a sturdy cane. Her health had improved dramatically thanks to the medical care Amina and her brother had secured. Her smile was radiant, her cheeks flushed with warmth and happiness, her eyes shining with pride as she watched her daughter and grandson. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years," Mrs. Reed said, voice soft but full of emotion. "From those mornings when we had nothing to now," Amina took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. "I remember every moment," she said. "Every time I felt scared, every time I thought I'd fail, but look at us now, we made it." Her mother reached out, placing her hand over Amina's. "You made it. You never gave up even when the world treated you unfairly. That strength, that courage, it brought us here." Jamal looked up from his textbook. "Auntie, I mean Ms. Amina, you're amazing. I don't think I could ever work as hard as you did." Amina laughed softly, ruffling his hair. "You're going to do even more, Jamal. You'll go farther than I ever imagined, and I'll be right there cheering for you." Amina had not only rebuilt her life, but had transformed it entirely. With her brother Alexander's guidance and support, she founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping young women and families in underprivileged neighborhoods. The organization focused on access to education, medical care, and emergency financial assistance, the same struggles she once faced. Her mornings now began with purpose, not panic. She no longer feared eviction notices or unpaid bills. Every step she took was empowered by knowledge, resilience, and the love of her family. She often walked the city streets in her sleek business attire, a far cry from the threadbare uniforms she once wore. And yet she never forgot the faces, the hands, and the hearts of those she served and helped along the way. One afternoon, Amina visited the upscale bistro where the humiliation had occurred. She didn't go for revenge or to relive old wounds. She went to reflect and to show herself how far she had come. The restaurant's new manager greeted her warmly. "Ms. Reeds," he said, "it's an honor. I've heard all about your nonprofit and your amazing work." Amina smiled politely. "Thank you. I'm glad the restaurant has changed. I hope the staff is treated with respect now." The manager nodded solemnly. "We learned a lot from your story. We've implemented strict policies to protect our employees, and anyone disrespecting them is immediately disciplined. You changed more than your own life. You changed ours. Amina's eyes softened. That's all I could hope for. She walked through the dining room, noticing servers moving confidently, guests treated politely, and a sense of professionalism and empathy permeating the space. The memory of the glass shattering and the officer's cruelty flashed briefly, but it no longer held power over her. She transformed pain into purpose. That evening, Alexander and Amina sat together on the balcony overlooking the city. Jamal was inside doing homework, Mrs. Reeds was preparing dinner, and the warm glow of the sunset bathed them in comfort. You know, Amina began, taking a deep breath, for years I believed I was alone. I thought no one would ever fight for me. I thought I had to survive by myself. Alexander nodded slowly. I know, Amina, and I regret not being there sooner. But you survived and you thrived despite that absence. That courage, that resilience, it's extraordinary. She looked at him, tears brimming again, but these tears were different. They were proud, triumphant, grateful. You didn't just protect me, she said. You gave me the chance to live freely, to dream, to succeed. You taught me that family and love can change everything. Alexander smiled. No, you taught me, you reminded me what matters most, your strength, your heart. That's why I was so determined to find you. Amina took his hand, gripping it tightly. I'll never forget, and I'll make sure that every life I touch now has a chance to be like mine, safe, empowered, loved. The next day, Amina spoke at a community event about her journey, her struggles, her humiliation, and her redemption. She spoke openly about the pain of poverty, the injustice of being judged and abused, and the power of family and support to transform lives. She looked out over the audience, faces of all ages, races, and backgrounds. She spoke with clarity, empathy, and strength. Humanity transcends race, wealth, and social status. We cannot control the cruelty of the world, but we can control how we respond, how we lift one another up. A single act of kindness, a single choice to protect, support, and believe in someone can change the trajectory of a life. Don't underestimate your power. Don't underestimate the impact you can have. Her words resonated, lingering long after the speech ended. Amina returned home to find her family waiting. Dinner was warm, the table full. Jamal proudly displayed a project he completed for school. Mrs. Reed smiled, content and healthy. Alexander leaned back, watching his sister shine. And in that moment, Amina realized that life had come full circle, from pain to purpose, from humiliation to empowerment, from struggle to triumph. No longer did she fear the world. She had learned to navigate it with courage, wisdom, and love. And more importantly, she had the family and support to make every challenge surmountable. Her life was no longer defined by the poverty she was born into or the cruelty of strangers. It was defined by strength, resilience, love, and justice.